Today, we're going to get a little bit personal, and I'm going to share 5 mistakes that I made on my road to leadership within the airport environment. There were some big ones. Welcome to the channel, Leadership with Mike. On this channel, I help new managers become more confident leaders, and I do that with no nonsense sense, if that makes any sense. And before we get into it, grab my free PDF of 14 things that managers must know. And when you combine that with this video of what you shouldn't do, you will be a more confident leader tomorrow, I promise. Let's talk about me, but not in a manner that I am overly excited about, or not in a manner that I'm proud to say I did. In it, we're going to talk about me in a manner of do as I say, not as I did, because I really dropped the ball early in my career at the airport. The first mistake, and this was probably the biggest mistake in terms of the longevity of me not being in a leadership role within the airport, is as a young kid. Now remember, let's keep in mind, we're not making excuses, but 17 years in one job, you get to know people. And you may have been quite a young, fiery kind of kid. And that would have been me. So at a young age, I didn't think that the general managers that we had were qualified. I didn't believe they were any good from what I saw. And I stand by that. What I'm going to tell you right now is do not tell the hiring manager who vetted these general managers that you, at 25 years old, can do better running the baggage system of an international airport. Because later on, a decade later, you might be wanting to be a supervisor. You might be wanting to be a manager to connect the dots. But this hiring manager, they could have a memory of an elephant, and it's just right there. This young buck thought he could tell me how I couldn't do my job, how I mishired people. Yeah, let me see him get into management. Thus, it took me a long time to get into management. It literally took me until that HR manager quit and retired. And then things started moving nice and fast. The next thing, and again, I'm going to chalk this up to being young, being impressionable, which is not an excuse. Because if you're young, you still make the decision, you still make the choices. But I had the mentality in this environment that it was me against you. It was employee against management. F you to the man. You can't tell me what to do. And this was all wrong. Granted, we had some management that had this mindset. It was not for me to take on. I had no business having this mindset of employee against manager. What I did was I enabled it to fester in my own mind. I enabled it to create a divide between myself and the management team. It wasn't huge, don't get me wrong, but it was still there. It was still like, yes, let's have a coffee in the morning, let's say hi, greet each other, but you asked me to do a little bit extra. Well, no, screw you, you do it. And that is absolutely not the mindset that you need to have as a leader. I'm embarrassed to say that this came from me, but we are who we are. We can grow and we can learn from it, but sometimes in order to be old and wise, you need to be dumb and foolish. I don't know if that's actually a saying, but you know what? You heard it here first. The next thing error that I made was I was afraid to be seen as a company guy. So I didn't want to go above and beyond. I kind of held myself back if certain people were hanging out with me or watching me at work. And that, again, comes from a place of immaturity. Why do I care what other people think? If I know that I can do a good job and I can do the task being asked of me and I can take on extra work, why am I worried about what a couple salamis working beside me say? And that's an interesting question that I have of myself, because I believe that I've always had a leadership mindset. But at the same time, it's interesting to see how peer pressure or the perceived peer pressure can affect somebody. And it did affect me for quite some time. So don't let other people's opinions of you and being perceived as, the company guy or the company gal, the brown noser, the kiss ass. Let's keep it in check, but Do your job to where you're comfortable and you feel you're solidly contributing to the team and you feel good when you go home that you did a good job. Don't let the ideas of somebody not liking that stop you from doing. Now, the other mistake I had, or I guess the mistaken mindset was, if I was to be a manager here, man, I'm going to lose all my friends. Can I tell you that is the dumbest thing that you are ever going to think when you're debating whether to move into management, to get onto that leadership team. Because let me tell you this, out of 150 employees, right now, I have not been at the airport for 2 years. We've been hanging out for 2 years, but I have not been at that airport for 2 years. I can tell you on this hand how many people I still talk to that I used to work with. Now, put that in perspective. I'm telling you that 4 real friends that I still talk to this day, out of 150 people that I was worried I might lose them as friends. Even if we cut that down and said 20 people I was worried about losing as friends. In reality, I only had 4 real friends because those are the ones I stay in contact with after leaving the airport, after leaving work. So sometimes we get caught up in the circle that we have, this little bubble of work, but in reality, not everybody's your friend. In reality, you don't need to care about what others think, because if they judge you because you want to grow, you want to expand, you want to develop your career, are they really friends to begin with? Ask yourself. And this last one, this is a big one, especially for you unionized employees. I was afraid that if I went into management, I was going to lose the protection of the union. That is a very silly thing, because if you, like me, know your work ethic, know that you can do the job, know that you just need some time to get your footing and you will succeed, you do not need the protection of a union. I'm a little bit skewed because after the COVID shutdowns and what happened with international travel, our union decided that other union members in a different company should be taking our contract. So my union that was there to protect me gave my job to somebody else. That's not my understanding of unionized protection. Again, if you know you are a good worker, if you know that you can handle yourself, you do not need a union protection. You should be striving to get into management. Do not let that idea of losing a perceived protective layer get in the way of what you're doing. Speaking of unions, let me direct you to this video, which I share whether you should be a union rep or not. It might be the thing for you. It might not be the thing for you. Either way, get your coffee, and I'll meet you there. Ciao.